This is our operation setup screen. This is very simple, and this screen controls all of the other screens for all 30 machines or processes, plus the shipping screen. First thing that we do is we can put your company name in this box and it'll show up on all of the screens. The next thing would be to put in your hours of operation. In this particular example, I put in 6 a.m. to 3:30. and 3 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. The next thing that I'm going to do is put in whatever names we have for all of our pieces of equipment or our processes. We leave the number because the system works off the number, but people on the floor and in your operation, they may recognize pieces of equipment by their name. And so you have the best of both worlds. We have the number and we have the name. Then we enter the supervisor name. What supervisors are in charge of which machines, any cell numbers or extension numbers on how to reach them, because on every screen, whoever's the supervisor for it, it's going to show up on the screen, so anybody knows who the supervisor is. They know how they can contact them if they have any questions. My system works with problem codes. Most manufacturing facilities have problems. Hopefully they're not great problems, but most of them have them. And they're basically process dependent. So in this case, for problem codes, if it's a press, we'd have a symbol for it. If it's a servo that runs a press, we'd have a symbol for that. You outline the problems that are happening in your plant, and then you give them a symbol, and then these problems and these symbols will show up on the top of every page so that we know what problem symbols mean. These are just a list that I've made up that are common to some manufacturing facilities. At the bottom, we want to track parts when they go from outside vendors. So in other words, if we have a part that after it goes through a milling process, it needs to go to a heat treat, and then after it comes back, we need to do some inspection, and another part might go to a powder coater or a plater. And so you're just going to put their names in, and again, they're going to be called vendors 1, 2, and however many that we may have here, and the contact name at that particular vendors and their contact number, so that we can quickly determine where parts are, when parts are coming back. This is the quote and routing and process maps. Basically, our quote is our process map in this system. However we quote a job is the way all of the information is going to go to the operators and the schedulers, and our quote data is going to schedule our production. That is done so that we can review and test our quotes every time we run a job. And that way, you'll determine what your problems are, how close your quotes are, which will help you maintain the gross margin that you need to in order to stay profitable with your operation. And this is a very simple template. We basically, first step is to enter customer information, material cost, a part number, a drawing number, and a current rev level of that drawing number. From there, all of the machines you see here that was on the that we input into the setup screen are here for us. We're going to pick our path of making the part to print from all of our machines here. In the event that we have alternate machines that can be used, we can put that machine number in here, and it shows up on the process map, and the scheduler realizes that he or she has a choice of machines. They can use the first available or the one that's going to fit the start time of the next process the best, so you can kind of fit things in real time. The next step is, if there's a component number, to put it in here. We enter the material cost that we came up with, that we recorded up here, in each cell or for each machine, because we're tracking defect material cost, we're tracking overproduction material cost and labor, as well as defect labor. And so that's why we put material cost in each process that we need to make the part. As we look at the print, we determine what we want to do. And the first step is that we look at it and we said that we need to cut length for a certain type of material is 6.375 in this particular do-all automatic saw number 1. And we're saying that it's going to take a minute to cut a part. Now you may have several parts, several bars in there that are cut all at the same time for your rough cut. Some companies do that, some cut them one at a time. However you do it, that's your choice. Down here, we're going to enter what we're going to do, and you can put a lot of data in here. This is just an example. And then for the amount of time that we're going to do to make that cut. The second step, we're going to deburr it. We said we want a minute. A third step, stack parts in bin 4. That's a minute. The next step, we're just going to go, and I'm not going to review this again, but we're just going to go to the next step and put in the same data that we did in machine number 1 into machine number 4. And then in this particular case, we're just going down to shipping. Okay, so The third step is to go into shipping, which is indicated by process 100. Once we've completed all the steps, we go to the cost and pricing screen. And based on the information that we put in, we've put in our $10 material costs, we put in all of our minutes for all of our processes, and this is going to tabulate all of your costs for you. And basically, if you have, your customer has requested pricing on 10, 20, 40, and 60, this is automatically giving you pricing based on whatever gross margin you want to input in here. If you want a 25 or say a 35% gross margin, prices are going to go up. 30%, they're going to go down. Okay, you can change this to be 15. It's going to change your setup times and amortize your setup and setup removal times and move times accordingly to the quantities here. So that's taken care of for you. And then once you have determined the gross margin you want and the quantities that your customer has wanted and you're happy with your quote, we go to this screen, which is the print quote screen. And again, all the information that we've put in right here, you simply put in your letterhead into a printer and push print, and it's going to print out all of the information that we just had here. Then you can scan it and then you can email it off to your customer. The pricing structure works off of this screen, and in this screen we can input our factory overhead ratio, burden rate, the hours per shift, paid break times, and that's going to give us our total shift minimums, and our accounting quantity cost is going to be 1, because we've set up, as we looked in the last example, a customer quantity of 4 different categories. Okay, and you're basically going to put in the hourly rate that you want to charge for all of your pieces of equipment. Now, if you recall from the setup screen, all of these pieces of equipment are the ones we put in the setup screen. Okay, and so you're basically going to say, well, for the do-all automatic saw, it's $30, and then so on and so forth for all of these. For setup, sometimes you have more expensive personnel that are doing tooling setups than the operators that are running the job. So you can have different hourly rates for setup and setup removal. Move time. If you have operators that have to move from one machine to the other, and you say, well, I'm going to give everybody 1 or 2 minutes to move from machine to machine to take away the excuses of why their inefficiency rates might be higher. Well, I had to move over to this machine and that's farther to go. And you can take that excuse away by giving them that time. And you can just, if you don't want to charge $30 an hour for them to move from machine to machine, you can have a lower rate. That's your call. And then the hourly rate for the labor that's going to run the machine. And based on the run times, it's going to categorize all of these numbers, and that's what we looked at in the other screen that tabulated all of these costs. Okay, so that's basically how the quote and route screen works.